The reason why we can't fathom infinity is because, no. The reason why humans will never know the truth, the absolute truth, why we will never understand it, at least here, is because the truth is infinite. The truth, the ultimate reality, the substantial reality, the thing from which everything else comes from, the all, some might say. That mind is infinite, and that mind is truth. That's the substantial reality. That's the place where nothing changes, where everything is real, and that it is enduring. Nothing on this planet is enduring. Nothing on this planet is enduring. Our bodies, our thoughts, our minds, our emotional states. The only constant is change. That's the only constant, paradoxically, is change in this world. So it's not really truth, right? Because truth is that thing that never changes. Otherwise, if the truth wasn't always the truth, then it wouldn't be the truth, in other words. You know what I mean? At any point, truth strays from that, then it's not the truth, then it's false. Then it changes. You can't trust something that changes all the time. You can't. Not in a bad way, just in that it's not predictable. You can't know. You can't know these. You can't know infinity with a finite mind. Therefore, you can't know truth with a finite mind. That's why the only time people get it and understand the truth is when they slip into oneness through near-death experiences or drug overdoses, whether it's bad drug overdoses and you die, or you take a lot of psychedelic something and you slip into oneness source, you lose yourself. Your finite mind, your ego, in other words, is chucked aside. So we can experience truth and oneness. That's what we can do. So let me revise that. Let me tweak that a little bit as we develop the idea a little bit more. We can experience truth. We just can't translate it. Our vessels, which at best right now is word, there's a loss in translation, you guys. I mean, think of God, the infiniteness of not the man with the beard who doesn't know what's going on unless he comes down to earth to see for himself. Not that. That's not God. I'm talking something so far beyond us, it doesn't even respond to emotions. To praise this thing, to think that you're altering its mood because you are praying to it or you're not praying to it, is crazy. In other words, to put human characteristics on something this infinite is almost blasphemous. That's the scale we're talking. Infinity, you guys. Infinity. You want to translate that with your human body, with words, with these things that we can't even explain our feelings half the time. And you want to explain God? Give me a break. Give me a break. There's no way. There's no human that's going to do it. We can experience it firsthand, and then we can't put it into words. Dude, I was there. I felt it. I experienced oneness, and everything made sense, and I knew all the answers, and I also knew that I wasn't going to be able to tell anyone. How many times have you guys had that thought? And if you haven't had it often, you should be, because it's a common thought, and a lot of people have it, and it basically says, fuck, this is so big, it's so simple, it's so big, it just is. It is what it is, and that's it. And that's why it's the truth, because it is as it ever has been, ever was, unchanging, ultimate love, some people call it. that, like I said, we can get close to defining it. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying we haven't the slightest clue of what the truth is. Like, no, we have a great idea. We can, in fact, get infinitely closer to the truth, at least when you go in that route. Like, you know, mathematically speaking, you can get infinitely closer to something. You just keep cutting the distance in half until there's, you know, but you can cut distance in half forever, is what I'm saying. Oneness is not something you could speak. Something you can experience. It's wonderful to try. Like, don't get me wrong, I love trying to explain truth. I love trying to understand what it all means, or just what the hell's going on. And people do it in all sorts of ways. People do it through music, through painting, poetry, philosophy, mathematics, religion, lack of religion, sports. I don't know, man. It doesn't fucking matter. Like, it doesn't matter. The people are all hunting for truth. Or maybe not all of them, but the ones who are hunting, who are, like, and there's a lot of them now. And a lot who don't expect they're doing it. Like, you know, if you're a pretty passionate person and you're driven towards, if you're driven towards like beauty and creating things and coming together to create something brand new that's epic and takes over the world and just straight up transforms existence, you're hunting for truth, man. You are, one way or another, because to do those things you have to tap into source, which means you have to tap into it, that unspeakable thing. You have to tap into it to get things of that feat done. Good luck. You don't need it. You don't need the luck. Luck, you want to know what luck is? Luck is for someone that just doesn't understand the law of cause and effect. That's it. The person who does not realize that all things are tied together in this world, like a spider web, the person that doesn't understand that will believe in luck. Like, oh, that just happened by pure chance. Nothing. Chance is an illusion. Chance is a prominent illusion. Don't get me wrong. But it's just an illusion. There's nothing. Every thought you have, every literal movement you have, you know, as detailed at movements as how you stand, how your spine is, how your knees are, like which direction you look in, how you look at people, how long, like everything you do, your words, your thought, nothing, like it shifts your reality ever so slightly. It shifts your reality ever so slightly, but it does, you know. And 1 degree, like a 1 degree shift over 1,000 miles is going to put you how fucking far? It puts you 1 inch off in front of your nose. Like, oh yeah, 1 inch, it's not that big of a deal. It's 1 degree. Yeah, but over the course of time, man, that shit changes drastically. Like, give anything enough time and it'll change the world. It doesn't matter how small it is, as long as it happens. Lost my train of thought, but usually that happens when the conversation's over. So that's just a way of my conversation to say stop beating a dead horse, I believe. So we'll just end that conversation right there. But yeah, truth, man. Truth is like, and it's not necessary. You guys, you know, it's not, like, it's not. You can get by. There are other things you can go off of. Actually, to be completely honest with you, you're probably better off just... Alright, so, yeah. You're better off learning the laws that emanate from source. So earlier, you know how I said that change is the only constant. Well, the paradox in that is, in order for things to continue changing and never be the same forever, you have to have a set of laws in place that they are themselves unchanging. They are definite, right? They are principles in which govern existence, because we need the machine of change to stay in place. And these 7 principles, the Hermetic philosophy, are those. That's what these things are. I think. I'm not sure. I mean, I've never actually outright heard the text say that, but that's what I feel like they're putting together, is that these 7 principles dictate the way things change in the world. And when we learn how things change in the world, we have a better chance of creating things instead of being created by things, which happens on a global scale, like humanity as a whole, and then on the individual scale, each person, you know. Because truth is unknowable to us, at least in our conscious state, you know, and that, like, you know, it's like, I understand that we're tapped into universal soul, but the human experience is dominated by the ego. Like, let's just be real. You're not going to exist outside of yourself 24/7. And if you are, then Jesus Christ. Yeah, Jesus Christ. That's it. That's an example. Jesus Christ, Buddha, maybe. Not that it can't be done, but like, practically speaking, if you don't want to be a monk, right? If you don't want to be a monk, your life is probably going to be dominated by your ego, by your finite mind, and that's fine. Like, that's why we're here. That's part of the human experience, is you're very individualistic here. You're having a very unique experience, a very unique vantage point of the universe. Unlike any other vantage point in the universe, because no other consciousness occupies your consciousness. So no other consciousness in existence of everything is existing in your exact space, which is actually super cool. So like, it's totally fine that you live in your ego if you don't want to be a monk, as long as you keep the ego in check, of course, and, you know, have a few times a year where you remind yourself that you are not your ego. You know, it's that is importance. By all means, don't skip leg day. Leg day is equivalent of groundedness, in other words. But yeah, these 7 principles, written by it doesn't matter who fucking wrote the 7 principles. People are like, oh my God, Thoth and Hermes and this dude in Mexico, and like, who was the same dude in India, who was like the same dude's uncle in China. It's like all the same person, dude. Like whether or not that is true or not, the fucking 7 principles are gold, and you should. I'm not even gonna say follow them, because you don't have a choice. That's the thing with these principles. All they're doing is saying, hey, this is how the changes in your world and in every world in existence happens. Like, this is how it happens. And this is what I fucking study. Like, this is what I wrote the book on, the Hermetic philosophy. It's legit, these 7 principles that are unchanging, that are, in my mind at least, these guardians of the movements of the all, or something not so wordy like that. And they're truths, right? And which means none of these are going to be new for you guys. I swear to God, not one of these things I'm going to mention right now are you going to be like, oh my God, Keith just dropped some knowledge I've never heard before. Like, no, by all means, I'm not coming up with this shit. This is in every religion, every culture. It's just, they all talk about the same things, and you'll see here. So the first one is the mental universe. So the mental universe says everything has an origin in thought. Thought is the first thing that happens before creation, and the reasoning behind that is we operate as the mind of the all operates, which it first had a thought, which thought us into existence. We're extensions of that oneness. And because the original thought of existence, the first thing that brought existence into existence was a thought, then everything in existence works the same way. You and I, in other words, are extensions of oneness, therefore we operate the same way with our minds. We're just working with finite minds, while God, or whatever the all you want to call it, we operate as that does. And these thoughts have vibrations, and these vibrations stimulate and resonate our surrounding area. That stimulation, that vibration is another law, is the law of vibration, right? Not new at all. Vibration says everything is moving, nothing is at rest. Even a chair that's sitting in front of you is not at rest. If you go down small enough, you'll see movements, circling electrons, vibrating around each other, and quarks bouncing around everywhere on the quantum level. There's just, it's a madhouse. These movements release frequencies because all movement has a vibration on some plane, and those planes emit vibrations, frequencies. They stimulate things, and it may sound a little. Let me explain it a little easier. My bad. Music. Someone plays music that you really like, you're gonna dance. Now this is a very crude description because I'm using something in the physical world, and the physical world is very crude, but it's still fucking 100% applicable, right? These laws are in every world, physical, doesn't matter where, they bear no prejudice. You hear music, you dance. Right? That's how it works. You hear fucking good music, you dance. The better the music, the harder you dance. That's the best fucking, that's all I have to say for the law of vibration. The better the music, the harder you fucking dance. That's it. In any area of your life. The music is the broadcast, is the message, and the dancing is the response. And that's what happens. Things start to resonate. Things start to dance in your life. Oh my God, look at that thing. It's dancing in front of my eyes. Right now I'm being metaphorical. That's dancing in front of my eyes. That's popping up. What do we call these? Oh, we call these synchronicities, right? That's what these little fucking vibration pops are in our peripheries. Like, oh, I never noticed that before. Well, that sign didn't just appear because you thought of it. No, the sign's always fucking been there. It just wasn't vibrating with you because you weren't at the same frequency. And now that you are at the same frequency, you're starting to have these new things that match the new frequency vibrating out at you. And that's what we call synchronicities. That's why we have more of them when we're like really in the flow, or meditating all the time, and we're working on self-development, and we're really growing and pushing boundaries in our lives, and living on the edge, and like really going off of faith, and really going off of source, and like fucking magic, whatever we can. When we're really tapped in, we get more synchronicities because our field is being amplified that much, right? Because vibrations, what else can you do with vibrations? Well, you can give vibrations more energy, and they vibrate louder. Right, that's how it works. So that's law of correspondence, right? Which is another law. Law of correspondence says everything that happens somewhere happens on every other plane. The law applies everywhere. That's the holographic universe, and that was the law I use. And that's what you do with that law. Basically, you go, okay, I know this about this, so I can apply this to this. Perfect example again. Batteries, right? You have a magnet. Say it pulls 6 staples. Well, if you run electricity through that magnet, you increase the electromagnetic field. So magnetic fields is caused from circling metal, basically. Circulation in metal. It's grinding up against each other. It's creating electricity, and that force creates a negative and a positive, and it flows out of the positive, and it comes back into the negative, like all the pretty pictures you see around planet Earth. That's its electromagnetic field, and that's what's happening with the core and the magna. The plate tectonics are grinding, and it's causing friction, and it's causing electricity. And anytime you have electricity flowing through something, you have a negative and a positive. It's that toroidal field that people talk about in sacred geometry. Anywho, we can increase that. easily with a magnet just by giving it energy. So we go, okay, if we can increase the electromagnetic field of a magnet by just hooking a battery up to it, well, humans, it's provable, have electromagnetic fields generated in the heart and the brain. The heart just happens to be way bigger. That works just like that toroidal field where it comes out through the top and enters through the bottom. Well, the cool thing is that we could do that with humans now. We can say, okay, what does it take to raise someone's vibration? Well, it's the same shit we've been talking about all along. That's what I'm saying. It's nothing new. Eat healthy foods. Have healthy conversations. Have more joy in your life. Dance in your life. Pay your fucking bills on time. And have conversations that you need to have. Like, do anything that you can from small to large at all times to release the shit that weighs you down and stack on the stuff that helps you float a little better. And like, that's the name of the game. Decrease the amount of shit that holds you down and stack on the stuff that makes you feel good and it's gonna make you float better. Like, that's it. And that's not rocket science. And again, it works on all levels: the physical world, the spiritual world, the mental world. You could say let go of physical shit, like I eat too much sugar. Okay, well, let go of fucking that. Like, that's one thing that's gonna lighten your load a lot. Like, cutting out refined sugar for your electromagnetic field is gold. Your body runs like shit off of pure manufactured sugar. Kills your heart, and if your heart generates your electromagnetic field, then anytime you would put stress on your heart or damage your heart, you're going to directly damage your electromagnetic field. Like, absolutely. Like, abso-fucking-lutely, you guys. That's not pseudoscience. It's proven scientifically that your heart emits an electromagnetic field, you guys. I don't think you understand the implications. It's a fucking magnet. Literally. It's a fucking literal magnet that's generated by a very physical counterpart. The electromagnetic field's physical corresponding part, law of correspondence, corresponding part is the heart. So if you damage your heart, you're going to damage your electromagnetic field. It's not going to shine as bright. It's not going to extend as far out from your body. It says it can go up to 5 meters. I'm sure you could double, triple, quadruple that with proper diet, exercise, plenty of water, minimal toxins, maximum healthy living greens. And if you're anything you eat organic and high quality, and your thoughts and the people you surround yourself with are just positive and they're on point and they're uplifting and they're grounded and they're forward looking and forward thinking, and they take shit well and they react well and they react even better than they did before, and they grow when you surround yourself with these people. And it's like, at the end of every day, if you let out a big breath and you're like, oh fuck yeah, like if you're saying fuck yeah at the end of every day, that's a good indicator. It's a great indicator, actually. If at the end of every day you're saying fuck yeah, then you're probably like, I mean, and be realistic about it, you know. Don't use fuck yeah as a cover up, as, you know, like, be genuine and sincere in your attempt at success, and your attempt and sincere about your character. Like, don't boost yourself up too good if you know you're lying to yourself, you know. Like, really know, like, you know thyself, like they say. Know your faults. Know when you're lying to yourself. Because a lot of times we lie to ourselves and we don't even realize it. Like, you know, which is tough. You know, it doesn't make you a bad person. It just makes you someone that learned something one way that worked really fucking well to you, at the detriment of your surroundings. But for you, it worked well, and it worked for the time, but it's probably not working now, and you probably don't even realize you're doing it now. But it's like totally chill, because if everyone fucking has these, it's not that big of a deal. And it's especially not that big of a deal because people know it about you, and you'll like apologize for it, and they'll be like, I knew that about you and I still love you, you're fucking awesome, you just don't see it, but I've known that about you, like, you're fine, and it's not even that big of a deal. Like, chill. Like, it's like, you know what we think, we blow things out of proportion a lot. especially when it comes to ourselves, which is why we like to shut it away so much. But when it comes down to it, it's like, oh, I procrastinate, or I don't get back to people, or like I don't express myself, or like shut people out. And it's like, you know, like how many of those resonated with you? You know, all of them, if not half of them. Like, we're humans. We all experience the same shit. So two sincere people who want to care do. Because 9 times out of 10, we in some way can share that, which is like you just want one way or another love and affection and attention and like you want to be noticed for, you know, being a real ass human and like slaying and shit. And like we just want what we want, and the 9 times out of 10 it's like really genuine and sincere things, and things we should be getting, and we're worth getting, and we're worth receiving, and we're worth dishing it out, you know what I mean? And so like I said, it's not that big of a deal, like our faults, if you're actively working on fixing them. I don't want to belittle it too much, because if you don't get your shit together, that's why we end up sending hundreds of thousands of people to die in Vietnam. 18, 19-year-old kids. Sorry, I know like shit got real heavy right now, but that's the truth. Like, that happens in reality. When people can't fucking deal with their shit, we go to war. And we send 18 and 19-year-old kids to war to get blown up. I know I'm still getting real heavy. I'll come out of the heaviness soon, but like I just want to hammer at this point. When I was a kid, like 18, 19, and I heard about the draft, I knew it was a real thing, and I was like, oh yeah, like damn, I would have to do it though. Like, man, we would just slay, you know, like fuck it, like yeah, Call of Duty, what up? But now that I'm 30, looking back on the 18 and 19-year-olds, holy shit, you guys. Like, how in the world can you guys be okay with sending 18 and 19-year-old boys, children, like they don't know what they want, and they're just coming out of like puberty and hormones, and like their mind is all over the place, and they have the rest of their life story. They're kids, like they're fucking literally kids, and you're putting a gun in their hands and saying you're either gonna go to jail or you're gonna go to this war. And a lot of them died really horrendous. Okay, I'm done. I know that got super heavy. I'm sorry. Point is, keep shit heavy. See, I'm already getting brought down. Point is, keep shit light. At least as much as you can. And yeah, contrast. Ooh, that brings me up to another law, you guys. I'm hitting you with all the laws. The contrast is the law of polarity, which says that everything in life that manifests both it and its opposite. Kind of like before when I talked about electromagnetic fields always have a positive and negative, which is more masculine, feminine, which is the law of gender. I'll get to that, maybe. I'm sure it'll come up. Anywho, yeah, law of polarity says there's opposites, and it's in tandem with something called the law of rhythm. And the law of rhythm is says that existence will always swing between the two. You have your opposites, and then experience will always shift between the two. Hot and cold, and happy and sad, and tall and short, and night and day, and happy and whatever, love and hate. It doesn't matter what you have, there will always be an opposite. Like hate, like the big things I'm talking about. Like there will always be hate, right? There was in some form. A thing has to have an opposite to define itself. Opposites define themselves, right? Negative space defines itself. That's how it works. And the goal with that is to shift it. A good example would be before good for you was getting a B. If you got a B, that was good. Getting a C was okay, getting a D was bad. And then you shifted. You got better grades and you expected better things. Now a B was okay, a C was bad, and an A was good, right? Your whole scale is shifted up. There's still a good A and there's still a bad C. It's just your perspective has shifted. And your perspective can either raise or lower or go sideways. And actually, I'm sure it can go in literally an infinite amount of directions. But the goal is to go up relatively, usually. The law of rhythm bounces back and forth. That's just saying that you will go from happy to sad to happy. those are kind of straightforward no-brainers. Like, yeah, there's always an opposite of something, and you're never always going to be happy, for example, nor would you even want to, because you can't have one experience forever. You can't have one experience forever is oneness. Like, that might be a good way of explaining oneness again, is that not oneness is that we have change, is we have happy, we have sad, we have motivated, we have unmotivated, we have love. We have the ability to love after hate. Like, imagine hate, and then imagine love right after it. There's different degree. Hate is shifts too. You know what I mean? Hate is not definite. Love is not definite. These things vary. Fortunately or unfortunately, or both, everything varies. And there's, depending upon your perspective and where your consciousness sits, is what's going to be the median for your high and your low. There's infinite love, baby, right at source. And on the other end, I would assume that hatred goes just as far in the other direction. Heaviness, I know. It's kind of, and it's tricky because, again, to say that oneness is love is like putting a label on it, a word on it, and you can't really put a solid definition word on something that is infinite. It's a paradox. You cannot define it. That's the thing I'm trying to tell you guys. So that's why I even hesitate with saying love is it, because love implies hate, right? Was what I'm saying. You can't have opposites. Love implies hate. I'm sorry. Happy implies sad. Just like sad implies happy. Just like hate implies love. It's just you can't survive without your opposite. That's just the way it goes. And really, we should be thankful that we can go between those phases, because, like I said, to have one experience forever is, I don't know. Is it boring? I don't know. Could you even describe what it's like to have one experience forever? Oh, that's right. You can't, because that's oneness, infinity. Oneness is one universal, infinite experience forever. So maybe that's why it slipped out in its own mind, right? Because there's nothing outside of the all. The all is everything. Also the paradox. There's nothing, everything is inside of it. Because we're inside the mind. That's why everything's inside of it. That's why it exists. It's why we can create infinity in our mind, like Tolkien created Lord of the Rings, and there's like he made up a language, elf, and that language has 3 dialects. Not only did he create a new language, he gave it 3 dialects with their own alphabet. And that was one fucking race. He had the dwarves, and they had like 2 languages too, and a whole new alphabet. This came from nowhere. Everything that I just described, it exists in an infinite amount of space, which is the mind. The mind is infinite. It is infinite. It's crazy. Honestly, I think if you were a human and you comprehended infiniteness in your human form, that your head would explode. Maybe not really, but in some way it would. Like, you would probably be devastated for, if not forever, for like years. You would probably be devastated. Like, can you imagine? Like, the information of not this entire universe, but all the parallel universes in existence, like, all of that being crammed into a human brain would just fry everything. You would go into a coma. You would turn into a fucking vegetable. All right, Keith, I get it. But, tangented there. I think I covered all the things, too, except for law of gender. I don't know if you guys want to hear about the law of gender. How many minutes are we at? 35? Law of gender is basically that everything will manifest also masculine and feminine. This is, yes, part of man and woman is masculine and feminine, but that is strictly the organic, physical I'm going to use the word organic instead of physical, because whenever people say physical reality, I feel like it has a bad connotation in the conscious community. Like, you know, not that it has a bad rep, but like the spirit is praised above all at all times, and the physical gets a bad rap. You know, the physical is just as much a fucking part of the game. So we'll call it organic. Man and woman, as far as penis and vagina, is the organic, raw, earthly form of the law of gender. And you say, oh, Keith, well, what about people who are gender fluid and, you know, man doesn't define who I am? Like, no, it doesn't, because it doesn't stop at the physical body. You have your emotions, your emotional body, and you have your intellectual body, like your mind, your conscious mind. And your conscious mind could feel different from your body, right? Your conscious mind is masculine and feminine is more about qualities of energy and not about man and woman. Man and a woman, a man, for example, within him has a feminine side and a masculine side represented in the mind, right brain, left brain type stuff. Your linear logical side of the brain and your creative side of the brain. So your creative side of the brain is feminine, and your logical side of your brain is masculine. And so I'll describe how those work in the mind, and just assume, because it does, that's how it works in the rest of existence, basically. So the creative mind is the mind that is abstract. No boundaries, no borders, no limits. Not pure, but mostly chaos, because chaos is disorder. And when you're trying to create something brand new, you're creating from disorder, because by definition, if you weren't creating something, that it'd already be in existence, in order. And when something is in existence, it has a lot more structure to it, which is why it's able to manifest. Right, so that's the creative brain. And the logical brain is the opposite, is the counterpart, is structured, is linear, is not abstract. It's very focused, not so open, doesn't take in a lot of information. It just takes in a tiny amount of information, but it's mostly projecting information. The linear side of the brain wants to take control. There was a bunch of police officers across the street from a place that got broken into. There was an alarm that went off, but and I've been programmed too hard by the media. The cops are on, and I'm like, damn, I didn't do nothing. But yeah, I lost my train of thought. Ooh, law of gender. You guys with me still? Who's still listening to this? Thank you for listening to this. Thank you for hanging out. It's nice to thought bomb it and not have to do it by myself all the time. But the law of gender, I was talking about the brains, the left, right, and right brain. Yeah, I was getting too much. I was trying to get too deep. That's why I probably lost my train of thought. I'll lose my train of thought if I tangent too much too, so I gotta be careful with that. But yeah, basically the feminine side is receptive and open. It's creative. And the masculine side dictates. It's more a projection of energy than a receiving of energy. Actually, it's complete. Like, masculine is complete projection of energy. I shouldn't say some. Masculine is pure, unadulterated masculine. There's absolutely no mix of feminine in it. And feminine is the same as pure feminine. And combining the two in harmony is what makes the perfect creation. So that's another thing with this. There's actually not too much written on the law of gender, but what I'm picking up when I'm piecing shit together is that it's like if because that's what masculine and feminine does. It reproduces, putting them together. Like, to create something, you have to first start out with the abstract. If it's completely brand new, you start it with the abstract and you say, okay, what can I create from scratch? And you get all these wonderful ideas from everywhere, you know, unhindered. And then you start to find things that you like, and you use your masculine brain, which is about order. Orders all those things you like into something understandable, something that you can do practically, something that you can wrap your head around that makes sense, that's logical, practical again. So that's the perfect combination of feminine and masculine. Now you do this on every level to create something new. So again, if you take masculine and feminine to the organic form in the human body, to create something new with bodies, you have sex. And the man, which is represented as masculine dominated, and the woman represented as being feminine dominated in the physical sense, right? Not the mental, not the emotional. In the physical sense, a woman is dominated by feminine because she has a vagina. And like that's the physical representation. A man is dominated by masculine because he has a penis. So regardless of his gender identity, which happens in the mind, his body says you can reproduce. If you put this in a vagina, you would make a baby. That's the physical realm. The emotional realm, the mental realm is what I described as left brain, right brain. You have your creative side of the brain, which will think up the fantastic ideas, and your logical brain, which will put those ideas into something useful and something real, right? You combine both those things together, it manifests. And it manifests from the top down. It starts at the mind, again, law of mentality, everything begins in the mind, and then it has a corresponding part. That's where the law of correspondence comes from, because every level is the same. So the mind corresponds to, I would debate the emotional body. Mind is like spirit and mind, kind of the same thing. Goes down to the emotional body, which is our feelings, our emotions, which goes down to the physical body. So each level, you just take that. Each level, you put together masculine and feminine, and you make something new. The healthier the feminine, then the healthier the feminine and the byproducts. Law of cause and effect. Of course, you cannot have a piece of a start that is not in the finish. Like it's impossible to plant a fucking apple seed and get an orange tree. You know what I'm saying? Everything's tied together. So you just need healthy input from masculine, healthy input from feminine, and you're good. And that looks different on everyone. We have that in relationships where the masculine is the man and the feminine is the woman, or whatever role they decide. And for the relationship to work, the two qualities of energy, the receiving feminine and the dictating masculine, there has to be a healthy balance between that. And that shows up in conversations, and it shows up in... Well, let's just stick with that. Conversations. Like if your partners are both yelling at each other and neither one of them want to open up, then they're both dominated by masculine, right? And if one did open up, because that's a feminine trait, if say the man opens up to his wife and the man considers himself emotionally a man, or, gender identifies himself as whatever, it doesn't matter. If he's using the quality of, I'm going to listen to you, that's a receptive move. And if the other person takes advantage of that, and just uses it as a way to become a tyrant. People becoming tyrants is a very masculine imbalance, because they aren't checked by anything. Their ego is out of control. And then, of course, the ones that are too passive are walked on, and they don't have opinions of their own, and they're dictated their whole lives instead of being dictated. So a healthy balance between a masculine, which is projecting your own self and putting up your walls in your space, and this is you, and this is your identity, and this is how you show up in the world, and this is your direction, this is your purpose, your goal. That's your masculine. And your understanding, your accepting, your wholesomeness, your abstract thought, the ability to create something from fucking absolutely nothing. Like the most brilliant minds in the world come up with, like Einstein and Nikola Tesla. Like, you can imagine the amount of creative juice these guys have, and feminine is nothing but creative. Feminine is like more chaos. It's more, there's no structure, so you can build anything from it, as long as you're savvy with how to use it, like fire. Like the feminine is like fire. You can be creative with it and boil water and heat yourself up for a shower, and like keep your bread warm and soft, so like it tastes really good with the butter later on in the middle of the night, and it's not too hard but it's not too soft. Or to like play music around at night. Like, fire is amazing, but it can catch on fire in the middle of the night and kill you and your whole family inside. That's the name of the game. There's order and there's chaos. And it's not about good and bad, because remember, law of polarity, good and bad are the same fucking thing. The same thing to varying degree. One is just happens to be on this side of the scale, but the scale is the same thing. Hot and cold are the same thing. It's both temperature. And what I think is hot, you might think is cold. You know what I mean? It's super subjective depending upon where in the scale you're looking. So you can't go off of that. You have to go off what is and what isn't. And when it comes to masculine and feminine, if you can master that aspect of yourself, you can go really fucking far. Because if you can master when to be open and when to be receptive and when to listen, when to shut up and listen, but like listen with plans on listening. Like listening isn't just hearing someone, it's like going through with something. Like, hey, do this, it's going to help you. Hearing that, listening to it, like, yeah. When I take an honest account, when I take an honest inventory of me, where I'm at, and a sincere look, you're right. Like, you're right. I do need to do that. That's listening, not just hearing someone ready to retort and you're not listening to what they're saying, you're just waiting to throw your comeback, which is very masculine. That's not listening at all. That's just constantly on the attack, right? But sometimes it's fucking good to be on the attack. You know what I mean? Like, you have to be driven to get shit done. You have to make sense of the chaos when you have all these pieces of a puzzle and you're like, okay, now what? I have an idea, but I need to hone in. I need to get specific. I need to get real with what I like, what I can do, what I'm capable of, what direction I want to go in, exactly how I want to do it, the steps. How am I going to do that? Like, if it's just this huge goal in my head and I have no practical steps to get there, I'm going to be discouraged. I'm not even going to start, let alone finish. Let alone finish well, let alone finishing great, like among the 1%. So much has to go right from start to finish. And without a proper blend, without a proper knowledge of when to tap into the masculine and when to tap into the feminine, without knowing how to do that, we're in for a hurting. And that's what's happening now, because honestly, and my conclusion could be skewed for a number of variables, but I feel like the majority of people don't have a good balance. They're either dominated by one or the other. It's whatever. It's fucking plain and simple. It's just an imbalance, however that manifests. Like, you gotta know. You gotta understand that you can improve. So you go, okay, I can improve, which is wonderful. It means you're not dead. You know, the chance for growth is a wonderful thing. It's the best thing. Growing just takes time. And we have nothing but that. If not this lifetime, the thousands that come after. We have a lot of fucking time to grow, you guys. We have forever to grow. So that's not an issue. The issue is how. Like, this is a new world. Being human is just a couple decades old for a lot of us, you know? It's a few more decades old than for the rest of us. But even if you're dying at 100, considering the history of the universe, you don't have much time to figure it out. Like, let's just be real. You don't have that much time. If you're dying at 85, you gotta live to like 500 plus to start scraping the surface. I feel that's just me. I lost my train of thought again, which tells me that I've been rambling too much. So sorry about the ramble. I like steer it, but like I said, it's like you have to find this control and uncontrol. Because if I try to control the talks too much, then I can't hit a flow. And if I flow too much, I flow out of control and I just lose it. Like, I just black out. Where was I? And I just like straight up fall off the edge. Probably not a proper integration of masculine and feminine. See, that's what I'm saying. This is why these principles are so good, you guys. Because when you study them, I say study like I've been sitting in a dark cellar by candlelight for years, just going over a stack of dusty books. No, like, I don't study like that. I read a couple books here and there, and I read these 7 principles over and over again. Like, that's it. Like, a weekend's time could get you guys brought up to speed. It's not that big a deal, but it is a big deal in that you start to be able to, like, you can't fix shit right away. Like, obviously I'm not just a billionaire, but I don't question it anymore. I don't question that I can get there, because I've learned enough to know that you just have to follow a series of steps and be consistent. Everyone that I speak to about making money, being successful, being great, like everyone admits having a lot to start out with helps, but by no means is that the only way, nor is it the best way. Sometimes it's more fun not going that way, you know what I mean? Oh yeah, like I was saying though, these laws and these principles, you can, because nothing operates outside of law. I mean, no law exists because, again, change is constant. And for change to be constant, something has to be in place to make sure it stays constant. And these are those things. That's why they're laws. And they're verifiable. Trust me, guys, I've been reading this stuff, studying it for like 4 or 5 years now, and it just makes more and more and more sense. And you read articles, and the articles are saying the same thing science is saying. You'll just see it's just in different words and it's in different patterns, but the patterns are all the same because we live in a fractal holographic universe, and it's apply the known to learn the unknown. You know, and we're not dictated by the laws themselves. Like, you can't see it as the laws as something holding you back, but as tools to operate in a world that must have constant change. They're like, hey, look, man, unfortunately, you're going to be living on Earth and you got to follow these dumbass rules. Like, I know it sucks, whatever, but seriously, you just have to learn how to operate the rules, and then you use them for yourself. And you're like, yeah, your life is going to suck for a while on Earth because you're not going to know how to make the rules, and like people are going to put their rules on you, and you're going to be like, well, whose rules are better? Is it my way of life? Is it their way of life? Is it a combination? Like, what the fuck? What is it? What do I even want? What does it all mean? But damn, these cops keep throwing me off. That was a good one too. I don't think I was on a tangent too much that time. Where was I? Oh, rules and you just, analogies help a lot, because there's everything, you guys, is an analogy. Ooh, video games, perfect analogy. You like, say you're playing Fortnite. You're playing Fortnite. Like the way, the way a gun shoots, or the way the tree collapses when you hit it with the pickaxe, or the quality of sound that you hear, that's never going to change. Like, there's laws in the game that he's going to jump the same, he's going to shoot the same, given these circumstances, he's going to do the same thing over and over again, right? You have to obey those, because that's how that's the laws of the game. That's just how it works. You get used to it, you learn how to use it, and you get really fucking good at it. And then, that's it. Without tangenting too much and losing my train of thought. That's it. So what I do now is, I talk about it like I actually do it. It just runs on repeat, you guys. Every encounter I come across, whether it's beautiful, sad, happy, anything, how can this be more everything? How can this be more meaningful? How can I learn more from this? How can I appreciate more of this? How can I love more of this? How can I cut out more of this? Why should I cut out more of this? Why should I go towards this? Why is this so beautiful? Why do I like this so much? Why do I not like this? What's the corresponding aspect? What's the corresponding thought pattern that I have that's representing as this circumstance? Or like, all of it, you guys. It all ties in with everything. All the levels of existence operate on these same laws. They just manifest under different whatever. They just everything manifests different on every level, but the quality is the same. Like the quality is the same of the quality of energy. Sadness is gonna feel a certain way, and it might have a physical corresponding part where it releases hormones and stress, and you break out, and sweat smells real bad because the oils that you're releasing. And you guys know this, when you sweat, and like, I don't know if you have noticed this, but when you're stressed, your sweat smells extra bad. And it's not you that's actually smelling bad. Your stress is releasing a high amount of really fatty and kind of toxic hormones. And they seep out of your skin, and bacteria eat them. The bacteria that eat them, they don't, what are they called? They're anaerobic, meaning they operate where there's no oxygen. Your armpits, there's not much air there because your arms are closed. So the bacteria that thrive there are non-oxygen bacteria called anaerobic bacteria. Well, funny thing is, anaerobic bacteria byproduct is doo-doo. Like legit doo-doo. The smell of doo-doo isn't your doo-doo, it's the doo-doo of these anaerobic bacteria, which are sulfur compounds, and sulfur smells like dookie. So if you have a whole bunch of organisms producing sulfur as a byproduct of their metabolic process, you're gonna have a whole bunch of dookie ass smelling stuff. Your armpits, that bacteria loves that hormone concoction of stress, which is why you break out from stress too. It's the crazy hormones. That crazy hormone is sadness. The quality is the same. It's just the way it manifests on the human body is with the hormones, and then the things that happen from the hormones, which can be specific to the individual. But again, each one of those individuals' occurrence of that quality will be the same quality, no matter what shape it takes. It's always going to have the corresponding part will be the same. That's what's wonderful. We see these patterns, and we're able to learn faster. I need to go inside. I've been out in my car for an hour now. This is crazy. I would also like to start my podcast, so you have to have longer podcasts. Anywho, if you stuck it out this long, sorry it was so choppy. This is like my first legit long podcast, but we made it. All right, I'll see you guys in the next one. Welcome home. This is your host, Keith Garcia, here to bring you knowledge, information, and entertainment. And I'll be talking to you soon.